Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at Black Hat USA. Terry Sweeney, contributing editor with Dark Reading, holding forth with Chris Hollenbeck, the CISO from Tanium. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
We are talking about endpoint management, which of course is a hot topic given COVID and work from home and the increased surface attack surface area. You've been talking a bit about converged endpoint management. Tell us a bit about what that is and why it's important to today's security practitioners.
Sure. Well, typically a lot of organizations, IT and security, are in their own distinct silos. They're working towards their goals, not necessarily working across each other.
Sure.
And so the idea here is not just to get those teams working together, but working off the same data and the same set of tools. So if I can get one set of tools on an endpoint that will do both those functions, I start to bring those teams together. They're not working cross-purpose. It's going to work better for the organization as a whole.
Of course. So security departments are still struggling with silos, and the ability to integrate remains ever elusive. To say that it's complex, to me, is a bit reductive. Explain a bit why integration of these silos still remains such a huge challenge for the security industry.
Well, typically organizations have gone through and done purchases based on a distinct need at the moment. So they go and they buy a tool for a task and they go on. And so they just pile on new things over time, and they accept the pain that comes with them. They don't necessarily look at how do I integrate. They don't necessarily demand that of their existing vendors. And they never look at doing tools consolidation as a viable approach. Tools consolidation honestly ends up being the more straightforward way of doing it, instead of trying to tie together lots and lots of different tools.
Doesn't that tilt the equation, though, in favor of the larger established vendors?
Yes and no. Don't believe it. If any one vendor tells you they have the solution for everything, there are going to be gaps. And those smaller companies, those newer comers to the market, they can fill in those niche areas. And that's an important piece. You're never going to have a 100% solution with a single vendor. So there's room there still for niche players to fill in.
I'm just taking a moment with the big vendors over-promising piece. I'm just, still a little stuck on that, but be that as it may. What is it that organizations can do to overcome the challenges that are associated with this kind of integration that we're talking about?
It comes down to understanding and not just building a tools inventory, but a capabilities inventory. A lot of times organizations don't realize what they already have. If you have an inventory of what capabilities exist because of all the tools you own, you can start to look for the opportunities to tie things together. Also, when you're purchasing tools, ask the hard questions up front. Do you have APIs? Do you have partnerships and integrations with other tools that you already have in your inventory? Those are key things you have to ask. Anymore, it's not even a selling point if a tool says they have SAML for authentication, for example. If they don't, it's an automatic disqualification for me. Same thing for APIs for a lot of things.
Seems like a great place to also call on reference customers to see exactly how it worked, get firsthand knowledge of how the integrations went, the inevitable challenges.
Yeah, specifically references for customers that have done that integration with that other tool. Not just in general, but specifically your use cases.
Chris, talk a bit about Tanium's own Converged endpoint management tool. Specifically, how you see it as differing from other solutions that are available on the market today.
Well, a lot of the other tools out there, they're really a conglomeration. Even if they're sold under one name, a lot of them still are the result of acquisitions. It's not necessarily a seamless integration across them. For us, it's a single agent, single server instance to manage that communications out to the endpoint. And then from there, it's just the modules that ride on top of that to execute different workflows, but it's ultimately the same communications path to the endpoint. It's the same data sources from the endpoints to do that work. So it is very seamless. There's no need to necessarily do those integrations on the platform level. It's only when you have to call out of that platform to talk to other vendors' tools.
That sort of power and reach is, of course, important, but granularity also seems really important where endpoint management is concerned. Just, again, as we talked about, as the pandemic has progressed, the number of endpoints has increased exponentially. How do you address the granularity piece?
Well, I mean, for us, not a problem. You can scale up to however many endpoints, doesn't matter where they exist. The real challenge is, can you talk to those endpoints on or off the network? On or off the corporate network? Do they have to be on VPN? For us, we don't care. They could be in Starbucks and on Wi-Fi or on an airplane on Wi-Fi. It doesn't matter. So yeah, for us, it's not an issue of scale. The number of endpoints doesn't matter. The issue sometimes in larger organizations is actually around how do you give different departments access just to their systems to manage them? Because there's fiefdoms that come into play.
Oh,
imagine
of course,
that.
Yes.
So you have to be able to have that high-level view. From a security perspective, you have to see everything, but maybe certain departments want to manage their IT day in and day out. And so that role-based access controls to give them just access to their piece of the pie is important as well.
It seems like you're describing a sort of virtualized management environment. Is that an accurate characterization?
I guess that could be a decent description of it, yeah.
I don't know if it involves clouds or containers or VMs, but talk a bit about how addressable this is where cloud is concerned.
As long as you can install an agent on it, or at least on the host level for those VMs or containers, then we can be there.
It just becomes another endpoint.
Yeah.
Very good. Characterize the state of endpoint visibility for IT and security practitioners today.
It's an ongoing struggle. I mean, we're still talking about it, first of all. I mean, obviously, if we're still talking about it, people are still struggling with this concept. We all want to go out and buy the magic bullet that will solve all of our problems, and mostly on the security side of things. The reality is, if I don't start from knowing what we have on a network or what I have in my organization, I can't begin to put the security tools on it. I can't put the monitoring and all the other things in place. So fundamentally, I need to know what I have. And that is an area that organizations struggle with, whether they realize it or not. Usually, in our conversations, organizations will tell us they have 10,000 systems. We'll go in and deploy, and we find out that they have another 20% that they didn't know about, at least.
As the CISO for Tanium, I assume you eat your own dog food and
drink our own champagne.
Drink your own champagne. more appropriate. How does it work internally from your perspective?
We use it extensively. We call it Tanium on Tanium, TOTS. So we use it ourselves. We even ran our risk assessment offering that we have. So we have a free offering to customers and prospects called our Tanium Risk Assessment. We ran it against ourselves to see how would we score. And the lower the score, the better off you are. Typically, right now, we see customers are hovering, it's on a scale of 1,000, hovering around 500 or more. So higher risks, we're down around 200. So we've done well even internally to manage what we do. We do a lot of customization in terms of using automation to tie things together. For example, data goes off to our SIM, we have alerts. From the SIM, we trigger off, and then we will quarantine an asset or collect volatile information for triaging purposes. Or, hey, we have a system that has been out of date on patches for longer than it should. We will either kick off a forced patch run, quarantine the asset, or kick off a ticket to the help desk to say, you're going to have to get on the phone and figure out what's going on.
We were talking earlier about integration. Can you share maybe an integration challenge that you've run up against as you've brought other systems into the fold?
I think for us, it hasn't been necessarily some challenges per se. We're in a unique position because we do work with all of our partners to bring together a lot of integrations to ultimately bring to our customers. So we made the transition from one AV product over to Deep Instinct as our chosen AV. It's been a journey. We have a large Mac shop. We were one of their very earliest customers for them that had their Mac agent. So we got to beat it up. We had a lot of struggles along that, but that was because it was a new product. But the integrations itself, straightforward, very easy. We're going through that same process with a lot of Microsoft components at this stage. Also, a very easy process for us. Open APIs make it a lot easier to do those integrations.
Sure. Well, we've been tossing back tots with champagne. Chris Hollenbeck, CISO with Tanium. Appreciate you doing Dark Reading News Desk today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.